A court ruled that calling a man bald can be sexual harassment. Scientists discover that mummies smell nice, and Japan's porn disposal boxes have been phased out. These are the weird stories for Weird AF News, the only daily weird news podcast hosted by a comedian inside a closet. Here we go. A high court rules that calling a man bald could be considered sexual harassment. It follows a very lengthy legal case that was brought by an electrician named Tony Finn. Tony claimed that he was sexually harassed by his boss in 2019. Tony's 64 years old. He made the claim against the British Bung Company. The British Bung Company, B-U-N-G. I don't know what they do. I guess they make bungs or bung holes. Can anyone confirm? Does the British Bung Company make bung holes? Or something to put in the bung. Anyways, Tony worked at the British Bung Company for 24 years as an electrician. He was fired in 2021. Why? For being bald? Let's find out. Tony says he was a victim of sexual harassment after comments were made about his baldness at the British Bung Company. Well, if you're working at the British Bung Company, don't be surprised when people make fun of your baldness. Okay, he was also, he claims, called a stupid bald C word. Well, this is the UK, so the Brits really love the C word. The Irish as well, I've noticed. They just throw that C word around. I'm not going to say it on the show here because, children listening, maybe. It's probably a couple of kids. Sometimes my show is being played all across a housing unit on the smart speaker, so I don't want to be throwing the C word around, guys. Although, I don't know, saying bald now, that maybe that's a bad word. Is bald going to get me canceled? Oh, man, let's keep reading and find out the rules. Man, I tell you, it's not easy having a podcast. There's a new word I can't say every 2 months. Now it's bald. I'm going to have to replace it with what? Follically challenged? Unhaired? I don't want to sexually harass anybody out there. So we have here the High Court. It's made up of a 3-person tribunal of bald men, I assume. They ruled that any banter about being bald is actually sex-related harassment. And this tribunal panel said that the remark crossed the line. They dismissed an argument that the comment was not sexist because women can be bald as well. And the reason being is that bald is much more prevalent in men than women, so they're making this connection here. It's sexual harassment of a male. If you identify as a male. What if you don't have any hair, but you identify as someone with hair? What about that? The tribunal panel said, quote, "We find this inherently related to sex, this term. And the Baldness Tribunal has spoken. The Shiny Noggin Committee has spoken. The cue balls have made their last statement about this, and we won't say another word." All right, this is all just so silly to me. At the end of the day, we're talking about body shaming, and any sort of body shaming is wrong at the workplace. But now if you're going to attach sexual harassment to it, now people can really get in trouble. They can be arrested, they can have permanent records, and it can prevent them from further employment. It's like upping the stakes here. I guess you could now consider it hate speech to call someone baldy, whatever. It just seems like, do we really want to go down this road? Because, there's going to be hell to pay. How about that, guys? You see what I did there? All right, now we have some responses from people online about this ruling. One person said, "This is silly. We should all strive to be better people and to be more understanding and supportive with those who are missing something. But it seems silly to waste the court's time with things so small." Yeah, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of community resources when your high court is dealing with this. I'm sure there's real problems out there. Another individual who happens to be bald wrote, "I'm bald and I love being bald. I really feel for guys who struggle with it. I have no issue with people having banter as long as they can take it back." Take it back means, I guess they mean as long as they can take, some banter as well. Yeah, that at the end of the day, that's being a reasonable human being. People banter, people make fun of each other, people joke around. I'm short, and so people have been joking about my shortness. I never was like, this is like some serious harassment, man. I made fun of them, and we move on with our lives. We all get a laugh. It's called taking the piss out of each other. It's something that they do in Britain, so I thought. We have bigger problems on our hands here when it comes to our heads. For instance, we got brains that are now filled with nanoplastics. How about we spend some time trying to figure that out? All right. I'm done with my ranting. I'm so sorry. Scientists discover that Egyptian mummies smell really nice. It's the sound of science. We got some science, guys. At first whiff, it sounds repulsive. Sniffing an ancient corpse, smelling a mummy. But researchers who indulged their curiosity in the name of science found that well-preserved Egyptian mummies actually smell quite nice. Ooh, how lovely to know that mummies smell really, really good. I wonder what they smell like. You think Old Spice? Let's keep reading and find out if they smell like teriyaki or Skittles. In films and books, terrible things happen to those who smell mummified bodies, says Cecilia, Director of Research at University College London's Institute for Sustainable Heritage. Cecilia says, "We were quite surprised at the pleasantness of the smell of the mummies. Woody, spicy, and sweet." These were the leading descriptions from what sounded more like a wine tasting than a mummy sniffing exercise. Floral notes were also detected, which could be from pine and juniper resins used in the embalming of the mummies. Yeah, well, I was aware that they would stuff the mummies with herbs and whatnot as a way to preserve them. They're basically like they're stuffed with potpourri. I wonder if you can I guess if you could hang a mummy from your car rearview mirror, that would be nice. They're like a giant incense stick. You could probably light the toes, and it would smell nice in your house. Lighting mummy toes and let them burn. Now, I don't condone the desecration of these sacred mummy bodies. In fact, you shouldn't, because you'll get a curse from what I've heard. Okay, back to the mummy science. This study was published this week in the Journal of American Chemical Society, and they used chemical analysis and a panel of human sniffers to evaluate the odors from 9 mummies as old as 5,000 years that had been either in storage or on display in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. These scientists wanted to systematically study the smell of mummies because it's long been a subject of fascination for the public and researchers alike. Well, so it sounds like they had a whole team to get to the bottom of this using the very advanced scientific technique of opening a coffin and smelling, in case you were wondering how they did it. That cost bazillions of dollars, by the way, for that. They also had some sophisticated equipment, though. They used technical instruments to measure and quantify air molecules emitted from sarcophagi to determine the state of preservation without touching the mummies. That was very important to them, because if you touch the mummy, it could just disintegrate. They're very fragile, I'd imagine, if they're 5,000-year-old mummies. Didn't they used to eat mummies? I think they ate mummies. I need to Google this. Hold on. Oh, my goodness. Yes. In the past, people believed that eating mummies had medicinal properties. This practice, known as mummy medicine, was particularly prevalent in Europe from the 12th to the 19th century. The belief stemmed from the ancient Egyptian practice of mummification, where bodies were preserved with resins and spices. Europeans mistakenly believed that these substances had magical healing powers. Mummies were ground into a powder or consumed as a potion to treat a wide range of ailments, including epilepsy, headaches, and tuberculosis. That is wild. Imagine that. Ma, I got a headache. Just drink your mummy juice and shut up. I scraped my knee playing softball. Just rub a little mummy dust on it. Wow, it is so wild when you think about all the dumb crap we used to do before modern medicine. It was just like a lot of folklore, mythology, and voodoo going on. And none of it was working. It was making it worse, in fact. People would have a coughing fit, and then the doctor would put 6 leeches on your back to suck out the blood. We're sucking out the coughs from your backside. All right, back to the mummy nerds here who say, quote, The smell of these mummies tells us potentially what social class they were from, and therefore reveals a lot of information about the mummified bodies that is relevant not just to conservators, but to curators and archaeologists as well. They say, we believe this approach is potentially of huge interest to other types of museum collections. All right. Can I get this job, by the way? I'm just thinking, I mean, I want to get paid like six figures to smell mummies and tinker around with weird stuff like this. I'll lick a sarcophagus and tell you what it tastes like. How about that? Can I get $100,000 for that, please? Some people got really cool jobs out there, getting paid to do very little, but it's exciting stuff. And no doubt some company's going to take this up and make a mummy-related cologne. Mummy Musk by Tom Ford. The scent of 5,000 years.
Let's rock.
Pornography disposal boxes have been phased out in Japan. For more than a decade, Kazuhide Inui has played an understated part in protecting the morals of adolescents in Fukuoka. Several times a year, the 73-year-old visits 8 white post boxes installed in the city in western Japan, turns a key and empties their contents. On a recent visit, his haul totaled 16 books and 81 DVDs in a single day. But the boxes are not drop-off points for rental shop customers. They are for the exclusive use of people, almost always men, who want to discreetly dispose of unwanted pornographic materials that, if kept at home, could fall into the hands of unsuspecting children. So apparently these are anonymous pornographic drop boxes, although if they're in your town square, I mean, how anonymous are they? People are going to see you throw away your dirty books and your dirty DVDs. We have a quote from our guy, Inui, who empties these. He says, before the white boxes were installed, this stuff littered the streets. Really? You had pornographic DVDs on the streets? I find that hard to believe. These street bins are not as numerous in Japan anymore because people usually take their litter home. Rubbish bins practically disappeared from streets in Japan after the 1995 sarin gas attack on the Tokyo subway. Oh, is that why there's no rubbish bins in the streets of Japan? I was wondering that because I was over there, and whenever I had a little piece of trash, I had to carry it around all day, dispose of it in like a coffee shop or when I got back to my hotel because you can't find trash bins anywhere on the streets of Japan. I thought it was very weird. So apparently there was some sort of gas attack on the Tokyo subway. Anyways, back to the pornography drop boxes. Last year, officials in Nagasaki closed several of these white boxes on a trial basis after the number of collected pornographic items plummeted from between 5,000 to 6,000 a year in the first decade of the millennium to around 2,000 today. Well, I mean, that goes with the territory. Everything's becoming digital now. I mean, you can't even find DVD rentals in general. It's quite difficult. So, and I mean, do they even still make pornographic magazines? I have no idea. Funny, looking back on how it was done, some of you were probably very, very shocked to learn that back in my day, we did the dirty deed. We did the sinning to magazines until they got old and crusty, and then we threw them out in a white box in the town square, shamefully. We actually went out at night or in the cover of fog so that no one would see us. And then I also remember coming on some hard times when you just couldn't even, you couldn't afford one of them hot girly magazines or even the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. You couldn't get one of those. So then we'd resort to porn dumpster diving, breaking into those white boxes. I tell you, those were hard times. Hard times. Okay, the article has some history. These are called Shiraposuto white pornographic disposal units. They first appeared in the city of Amagasaki in 1963, following a campaign by local mothers groups determined to tackle the corrupting influence of the post-war explosion in pornographic books and magazines. Tokyo didn't get its first porn drop box until 1966, but within 3 years, the capital had an estimated 500 as the tactful disposal of such materials spread beyond its Western Japan base. You'd be surprised to learn that the campaign to install these boxes was actually led by mothers who didn't want their children exposed to anything harmful, including pornographic books and magazines. Most were installed outside railway stations where men disposed of this redundant material, often under the cover of darkness to avoid being spotted by a friend, a colleague, or a neighbor. Regular hauls of books, magazines, and DVDs in some locations suggest they have not quite outlived their usefulness. The city of Fukui installed 2 of these boxes as recently as 2018, while some need emptying as frequently as once every 3 months. You dirty, dirty people. It isn't clear how many of the boxes still remain in Japan. There is thought to be just 1 in the Tokyo metropolis. They say they are in greater demand in regional cities, particularly among older men who are still quite attached to pornography in its analog form and want to offload their collections as discreetly as possible. And while the advent of online pornography has emerged, Shirapasuto has become more akin to regular rubbish bins, their role in protecting children from the harmful pornographic material now less of a factor. They were a success when they first appeared in the 60s, but Japanese society has changed and the way people consume media has been completely transformed, as you know. And because it's on our smartphones now and very accessible, I guess there goes protecting the children from it. So it's another challenge that we have to deal with. But again, it comes back on parenting. I think it's a very, very weird story of these pornographic dumpsters. Never heard of it. So glad. This is the weird stuff that I really go crazy for, just FYI. Well, hello, my friends, loyal listeners of the Weird AF News podcast. Thank you so much for spending some time with your buddy Jonesy. I want to give thanks to Lisa Coe, who bought me coffees off my website, weirdafnews.com. Lisa has done this several times because she's a big-time supporter of what I'm doing over here in this closet. She wrote me a nice little note. You know, when you buy me coffee, you get to write a little love note for me. And she wrote, 5 coffees for you, Jonesy, OMG. She says, my son is a linguist, by the way. So when you were talking about American hockey players picking up Canadian hockey slang basically through osmosis, I laughed harder than I have in a very long time. So I just wanted to show my thanks. I truly appreciate you. Jonesy, good luck with your life, man. Tons of love, Lisa Coe. Isn't that like the sweetest message? So sweet. Lisa, you're such a sweet, sweet, sweet person. And I'm so grateful to have you as a loyal listener of the podcast and a supporter of me. I mean, it really means a lot. And this message you wrote, I love this stuff. I'm glad people are laughing out there. You know, I say things, I don't even know what I'm saying half the time. And I'm like, is that funny? I hope it is. It's what I'm thinking. Anyway, so I appreciate that. Also, Laura sent me a little Valentine's Day care package, so I wanted to give her thanks. And it was a very funny care package. It had some of my favorite things in there. First of all, it had a pack of Skittles, which was awesome. Haven't had a pack of Skittles in a while. It had a little box of those sweet tarts. You know those chalky sweet tarts that have the little Valentine's phrases on them? Super sweet. And it had a can of corned beef for a corned beef hash. So, Laura, you're hilarious. So, yeah, I've mentioned how much I love corned beef hash on this podcast before. So, Laura sent me, and it was wrapped up too. It was wrapped up like a gift with glitter and a little Valentine's heart sticker. And I open it up, and I thought it was a candle. It had like a candle feel to it. And I open it up, and it's a can of corned beef hash she sent me. I think it's Hormel, too. Is it Hormel? I think so. It's over there. I can't see it from here. Anyways, I'm going to make some corned beef hash and eggs as soon as I can afford eggs. So looking forward to that. Don't mail me eggs, anybody, please. They're very fragile. Okay, I don't think they're going to make the trip. Anyways, if you want to support me or mail me anything, just email me, funnyjones@gmail.com. I'm accepting corned beef hash, cans of corned beef hash, and other things that I love in this world, like 100 grand bars. I'm obsessed with 100 grand bars. They're so good. Anyways, I appreciate you all. I'll let you go. Check out my website, weirdafnews.com. And I gave you the email if you want to check me out online to see where I'm performing. It's at Funny Jones on Instagram. I'm going to be headlining a show this Saturday at a theater in Temecula, California. Temecula, so that little wine country. It's like the southern. It's like the little area that makes wine down here near San Diego-ish. So, anyways. As the great MF Doom said, and that's that.